been going on. If you haven't noticed, this whole world of sewage has been getting a lot more publicity. I think there's a lot more people getting more and more educated about it. Lately, just personally, I did a video with KSU, Stark campus back in early spring, and it came out fairly recently. It's a pretty good job. So that went out on the web. Right after that, Canton Repository did an article that we had to spill out a bunch of things that were going on out there. Then probably within a week of that, WHBC called and wanted to have something done on a radio spot. So it's becoming more in the public eye, which is good, I guess. It keeps us busy, but it also gets some education out there. And a lot of it has been focused around this map. And you might have seen this at previous meetings. This map's been getting a lot of attention lately. And I know you can't see it well, but I'll just tell you what's on this. You can probably see the red dots on the map. Those are problem areas that we've identified through historical records, studies that we've done, sampling that we've done, census tract data. We compiled this so we can begin to try to whittle away at some of the problem areas this county has. There's a total of 21 problem areas on this map, and I'm sure it's not all inclusive. Usually it was an area that had at least 25, if not more, like 50 households that were probably causing a problem in a given area. The two that were really have been in the spotlight lately have been North Lawrence and this place down here off of 43 by Edelman's Trucking, Moreland Allotment, both of which have some pretty serious issues. I know that the townships are trying to get funding for those, so they've been in the spotlight lately. But we expect that this is going to continue to get more publicity, and that the repository's already said they'd really like to sit down and study this map more thoroughly. So I guess the issue I have to contend with is they're going to ask, I can hear it now, why don't you do something about all 21 of those areas? Well, that just doesn't happen. The money just isn't there to try to do something with all of that. Fortunately, lately up here in Marlboro, perhaps you've heard a little bit about this, somehow they got a federal earmark. I don't know how it happened, but before the economy took a twist, they got a federal earmark for $2 million to try to fix their problem. And they probably have the oldest housing stock there is that's on a septic that has this issue. So fortunately, we're going to see that taken care of. But the problem you see in these areas is they're so far out, they're so rural, that you can't get them into a city sewer. And it's really not practical to put in 100 new septic systems. So really the only option you end up with is a package plant to deal with the issues out there. So things are happening, but they do happen slow because the money is just limited and what can be done. Now just as a side note, for those of you who are in here as service providers, we do try to take into consideration, if you get out on a property that's in one of these areas, we try to take that into consideration if a sewer is coming. And we say, you know what, you don't need to fix it now, but be cautioned that you would either fix it in the future or connect a sewer, whichever happens as a result of the planning that takes place. So we don't try to ding people twice, but if you see these, you may see something on a report that says, hold on, we'll see what happens. So anyway, wanted to bring you up to date. There's a lot of publicity out there. Here in the near future, we are also have been working on getting tank pumping notices out to people. That has been a huge task. You may think, what's the problem with sending a couple of postcards? Well, we have a database of 26,000 records in it, and it's a mess. It has all sorts of different information, some good, some bad, and some entirely missing. So we've been trying to sift through that, and we're going to send reminders out for tank pumping. Unfortunately, it's not requirements. We don't have the manpower to force everybody to pump the tank, but it's going to be reminders. So we're looking at doing that. Also, code changes are probably coming up here shortly. We expect to see something probably January-ish. Probably it could be go into a little bit into later into the winter, but we're not certain exactly, but we do expect that to happen. I don't know that technically, on the technical side, that it's going to change much that we do here at Stark County, because we try to keep where we think it's going so that we don't get caught off guard when it comes. So I think we're going to be on the technical side pretty good. There may be some logistics that we have to deal with, but I don't know how much it's really going to affect you all. But later in the year, we will probably be touching on anything that will affect you in future CEUs. The last thing that I want to just make mention of before I just cover what we're talking about today is that this county has been awarded $160,000 through the Ohio EPA. Some of you remember the ARA funds that you might have installed some systems under. This is similar, but not the same. It's not ARA anymore. It's just the Ohio EPA thought this actually worked. So now we're going to earmark money in the funds that we distribute for wastewater plant upgrades, for septic system upgrades. Throughout the state, most of the bigger counties got about $160,000 each, and the smaller ones requested less, so they got less. But we're looking at in Stark County about $160,000. We are, I don't know, that may put in anywhere from 13 to 15, 12 to 15 systems, something like that. It's going to be administered through the Stark County Regional Planning Commission. A couple things, if you want to be involved with this, that you should take note of is it sounds like it's going to be a package deal. You may be bidding on anywhere from 5 to 10 systems, package, that you'll put in, and then you'll receive the money for those 5 to 10 systems that you bid on to get the best bid, or you're awarded the contract. So it's going to look a little different than a one-by-one, you're bidding on a handful of them. That will be coming out fairly shortly. That money's been awarded. We supplied regional planning with a list of about 30 individuals that need upgrades that can't afford it. So they will be making contact, doing applications through that, and probably only half of those people will get anything. But I guess it's better than nothing. So that'll be coming. So far as today is concerned, we're going to be covering some of the program statistics. This is with the property transfer program. A lot of what we're talking about today is geared toward that, just because at least we try to do one CEU a year that really is focused on that information. There's a new form that we're going to introduce to you. You may ask, why do you keep changing the forms? Well, you talk to her about that. But there has been some issues with the forms in the past. Some of it's not as readable and user-friendly as it should be. Some information is needed we're not getting. It's just simply because it's not being asked on the form. And there's some information that's being asked that helps us to verify that you and all your competitors are doing what you say you're doing. So it helps us to verify a lot of things. That's why some of that's been changed. Instead of cramming it onto 2 pages, it's been expanded, and then we've put together a certificate of review that will go to the whoever, the realtor, you as a service provider, back to you so you know what the status of that system is. We're also going to talk about O&M updates. With tank pumping thing we're doing, we're also trying to really get rolling in the operation and maintenance, for example, get people under contract to service air rate. That's a biggie. It's a huge thing. It's a huge thing for us because it's a big undertaking. It's a huge thing for these individuals that have never been required to do it. But I can tell you there's a couple people sitting in this room here today that go out and just survey areas of their septic systems. The biggest problem we see, you can guess it, they turn them off. And we see so much of that that we really, it really justifies what we need to do, and that is to try to get these people maintaining these things. Or else we're just going to be constantly out of their property. Turn it on, turn it on, turn it on. And that gets to be a waste of time. So that is a big issue, and we're trying to deal with that. We're going to talk about another problem that we've been seeing a lot of lately that we all need to take into consideration from our end as a regulator and your end as an installer and the homeowner receiving the final product, and that is water intrusion into a system. I remember probably several years ago, I did a little study on systems that were 5 or so years old, and the biggest problem we saw premature failure was not the soils, not the site that you were, not the installation, it was water. Water running across the system, getting into a footer tile, you name it, water was the issue. So we're going to have a look at some of the issues, and maybe you can be thinking in your mind, how can I better deal with this problem? Lastly, we have a video that we put together for training for the service providers especially, and then Laura has a little Jeopardy game afterward to make sure you learn something. So with that, I'll let Laura get started with the information she needs.
I just want to go over a little bit of information so far, 2011, the inspections that have been conducted. This is the total inspections mostly service providers are doing 340 roughly, into pretty much the end of June. So we're right on, I think we're around 700 for the year, so we're right on what we normally are for that. Total failures, I think it was about 14% of systems. Service providers have a little more, but they did a few more inspections also. And then this is other issues, including failures. So anything from T's to tank replacements. All right, the new form. Hopefully this will be a little bit easier for you guys to use, because I added lots of lines for comments and everything like that. This is the first half of the first page. I wanted to blow it up so you guys can see, but I added the buyer and the buyer's phone number, and then email results too. Most of you guys know I've been trying to email them instead of fax them, so you can put that in. If you want them mailed or faxed or all of them, just fill all of that in. But if there's nothing filled in there, I'm just going to send it back to you. So if it needs to go to somebody, you need to fill that in. All right. The first part, let's see what's new. Oh, I highlighted it. Number of bedrooms. That's something that you should be looking at anyway to know how much water you're going to be running. But most of the people have been using the auditor, and we'll get into that later, to get the age of the system roughly. If there's no records, most of the time we assume it's the same age as the house. And we've had a few that have been like summer homes, or people who are living out of state and coming back and forth, so we added intermittent use just to, so we knew exactly what's going on. And then the number of people occupying the structure in the past 3 months. That gives you a good idea of how much water is actually being, supposedly how much water is actually being run if it's occupied. Completely changed the component section. So we tried to make it more of a checklist instead of a fill-in, so we know exactly what you're talking about. Septic tank, trash trap. Oh wait, go back up to the box. I forgot to say something, a couple things. Up the top, private home sewage treatment systems, records available, if yes, attached. A lot of you guys aren't attaching them. It saves me from running up and down stairs to make sure your drawing is correct and there's not something messed up with that. So if you can attach them, I'd appreciate it. Age of the home and age of the system, that's in years, not year built. So that gets a little confusing sometimes for people. And the weather conditions during the inspections, we're really looking at how wet or dry the soil is. So if you want to add in, you know, say it's nice and sunny the day you were there, but it poured the last 4 days, you might want to put in, you know, that there was some rain. So, and not a lot of people, I don't know, it's kind of hard to find out how long the house has been vacant, but if you can do a little investigation or ask the realtor, give us an idea how long it actually has been vacant. Okay. Anyway, back down to the septic tank, trash trap, or other. If you want to put in the comments for septic tank, the type of tank, if it's precast, or I don't know if you're seeing any fiberglass ones, or a block tank. But for the size there on the side, you can put 2 1000s or whatever. Just make sure that you mark it clearly so I know what's there. If you have information about the system being pumped and you know who the pumper was, put that there, because a lot of times the pumper has other information about the system that nobody else knows about.